Hey everyone, today we're answering the question, is sports betting a scam? We're currently living in the wild west of online sports gambling. Right now, there are not very many legal precedents in place since the ban of sports gambling was overturned in 2018. Online sports gambling is a somewhat recent phenomenon since gambling on sports was federally banned before the rise of the internet as we know it today. In this video, we're going to look at some of the major sportsbook companies, cover some of their lawsuits, and look at some of their practices towards their consumers and figure out the best way to protect yourself against potentially harmful practices if you decide to gamble on sports. Let's start by taking a look at 3 class action lawsuits that companies like Fanduel and Draftkings have gone through or are going through currently. And remember, a class action lawsuit means that there's multiple parties who have a similar complaint against one defendant. So these lawsuits all involve multiple people or potentially involve multiple people. Okay, so this first case we're going to look at, this is going to be Christman versus DraftKings. This is a wild case, so let's just dive right into it. Okay, so you can see here on the screen, this is actually case notes from the case. You can see there is a screenshot of the odds of the bet that this guy Christman took. So he, on February 10th, 2021, he saw this bet on DraftKings that they were presenting and he liked the odds. And then what he did is he reached out to, actually before he placed the bet, he reached out to customer support and confirmed with them that these are the actual odds that they are presenting. So he emailed them and they respond, yes, this is the bet that we are offering. Good luck, we hope you win. So he places the bet and he actually ends up winning the bet at the end of the game. And then from there, you can see that they mark the same bet as a loss. It wasn't the same odds that were given, but he had reached out to customer support about. So they changed something mid-game or after the fact, after he had placed his bet, allowing them to change the rules of the bet without anyone's knowledge, without him being able to change his bet or take his money out or do anything with it. And I believe his bet was for $900. He would have won $5,500 if he had won. So it's a pretty big payout, but I mean, this is a huge company, so it's not like it's gonna break their bank at all. They just changed the odds mid-bet, mid-game. So obviously he noticed this, he's not happy with it, so he reaches out to them, out to their customer support again. It's like, hey, this is not what you presented. I confirm this with you. I have the screenshot and the documentation of this. And they say, oh yeah, there's actually another screen or something where it showed the actual correct odds and what you bet on was not actually right. So that's what they said to justify the change of the bet, the lines mid-game. And they offered to refund his original $900 bet, but he was not happy with this. And you can see at the bottom of this email here, you can see that in all caps. It's pretty funny. He's like, this does not suffice. I won my bet. Please add my winnings. He says it nicely, but also very forcefully in all caps and a lot of exclamation points. But yeah, credit to him for being somewhat polite. Actually, it gets a little bit wilder because after he emailed them that, they then, the next thing they would do naturally as a big billion-dollar corporation, they banned his account. They're just like, yeah, no, we're going to lock your account. You can't have access to any of your funds. We'll refund whatever, the original bet. We'll give you like a gift card, but you're actually banned for however long. They banned him for a while. And you can see in this email, they say, oh, sorry, we know it's frustrating. You can't access your funds or your account. So basically, this is what happened in this case. He took them to court over this, and it's still ongoing. I believe I haven't found any like conclusion or settlement or anything like that. But this is just something to be aware of. If this happens to this guy, and then again, this is a class action lawsuit, so it may happen to other people or have happened to other people. And again, you have to remember with these lawsuits that not every one of these cases or instances of this happening does get taken to court. It's more rare that they do get taken to court. Because it's just such a difficult grind to get to court. You have to pay for legal fees, you have to wait time. Obviously, it takes probably over a year. There's no guarantee that you're going to win. So that's what, when I say there's no legal precedent for this kind of stuff, this is what that means. Like, they're changing the bet online, so like online betting hasn't been around, so they can just kind of change things as they go in some cases. And this guy had all the documentation. He had screenshots of everything. So like not everyone's going to have that if that does happen to you. So you need a lot of evidence. So if you are gambling online, the best thing to do is make sure, if it's especially if it's a bigger bet, take screenshots of everything, any like interaction with customer support. Do reach out to them if you don't believe a bet is accurately displayed, because this is definitely not the only instance where something says something on their app or their website and it's not accurate to what the bet actually is. So credit to this guy for documenting everything and then having enough evidence to even bring this to court. So that's the first case. We're going to look at two more. Okay, for our second case, we're going to look at, this time it's going to be Fanduel versus Melnick. So this guy, he is betting on a NCAA game. Again, this is in February of last year, 2021. So again, somewhat recently. I don't think there's been a settlement or any resolution to this case either. Let's actually get right into the case. Okay, so he is betting in the real-time bets section of Fanduel. So that means the game's already started. It's going like you're watching it on TV and you're doing real-time bets as it's going. Not a large amount. I think it was about $50 that he bet, but the specific game he was betting on, let's take a look at the screenshots. As you can see here, there's the screenshot of the game he was betting on. So this is his phone. You can see in the top left corner of the phone, it says 8:52 p.m. Remember that. And then the game he's betting on specifically is the second game down from the top. So that is that New Orleans versus Incarnate Word. That one in the second game down, you can see the odds there. If you look at the bottom left-hand corner of that little rectangle, it says second half, there's 6 minutes left at 8:52 p.m. So from there, he places the bet at that time because he likes those odds. Now, if we go down to the second screenshot, we can see that it's 8:53 p.m. now, a minute later. We look at the odds for that same game, the second one down. You look that the odds look a little different, and then you look in the bottom left-hand corner, it's now 8 minutes remaining in the second half. So a minute later, there's now 2 more minutes added to the game time. So that doesn't make any sense on how, time works. So you can tell that something on FanDuel's end is not displaying these scores or times accurately, which in this case they argue that can affect how you place your bets or the incentive to place your bet. And one other thing I want to point out is just the real gamble here is in the top right corner. You can see his battery life, that's when you're placing your real-time bets, that's the real gamble. The plaintiff and his team did some more research on the real-time betting, and we can see in this green highlight it says that, quote, "It's frequently materially understood on the real-time display on the FanDuel platform in a range of 5 to 35% less of the actual time remaining in the sporting event, making the wagers on the under during games appear far better than the bet that they otherwise actually are." So that's kind of what happened in this case. And if we look at the beginning of the case, it says this is actually a huge class action lawsuit because it potentially can affect up to 6 million people who are using the app, and they may have some sort of case. So again, that's something to think about when you are betting on these apps or these websites. Again, you're not getting accurately displayed information on these games, or the bets themselves are not being accurately displayed, leading you to maybe make bets that you would not otherwise make. So this guy again had the screenshots barely before his phone died. On to the third one. Okay, so now let's take a look at this third case. This one is Manganero versus FanDuel again, and this one was in March 2021, I believe. This one's a little bit more straightforward. What happened with this guy is he put money into FanDuel. I think it was about $500. He's like, oh, I'm going to gamble. Put $500 in the account. And then he bet like $100. And then he decided he didn't want to gamble with the rest of it. So he just tried to withdraw his own funds. And what happened from there was FanDuel reached out back to him and said, actually, you can't withdraw your funds if you have not played through them, which means, you have not gambled them at one point. So he's arguing that this is not explicitly stated in any of their advertising. In fact, it's actually advertised by the company that you can withdraw any money for any reason, easily, quick, without any issue. So that kind of goes against their advertising, and then he eventually brings them to court. They bring up the Fanduel terms and services. Quote, it says, subject to such checks, meaning background checks that you have, like verification of a bank account, you may choose to close your account and withdraw your deposits and or winnings at any time for any reason. This is in their terms of service on their website. If you go, it's still there. It still says exactly that. So there has been no change. I don't know if they still require you to play through your funds. And you can see here on paragraph 21, another quote, for example, when advertising its online sportsbook service, the website promises potential customers easy deposits and fast payouts. Similarly, in touting its FanDuel Sportsbook app, the website states that cashing out is lightning fast and then one can expect convenience, safety, and security from utilizing FanDuel services. So that's basically what it says about withdrawing your funds. It never says anything about having to play your funds before you can withdraw them. That's the whole case in this one. Again, something to be aware of if you are on these apps trying to gamble. In this case, it kind of goes contrary to their advertisement that you can just withdraw your funds whenever. You don't have to play through them. They're saying that actually in this guy's case, they told him he did need to play through his funds. So something that would be pretty important to know, I would say, if you're signing up for one of these services, if you're putting, significant amount of money into your account. So those are those 3 cases. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to talk about real quick was this article that I found on legalsportsreport.com. This was written by John Holden, again, last year in March. And it basically covers why consumers have such a hard time getting their complaints to court. Okay, so for the individual, the consumer, it takes a lot of time, first of all, to go to court. These cases may take up, he says, more than 5 years in some cases. There's not a precedent set for this kind of online betting. It's not even legal in every state yet. So as it becomes more legal, there's going to be more new ways to do things, and there's new ways to bet that haven't been around before. New laws potentially come up to protect consumers, but right now that isn't very established at all. And again, it costs money, and it might not be worth however much you put into your bet. Like we saw, like two of those cases were, $500. One was like $50, and the most expensive one was about $5,000 difference in the actual outcome of the case. So that's not like a ton of money. So you may not even get a huge payout at the end of the day for all your struggle to get into court, and you pay all your lawyer fees and all that. Plus, you need all the documentation and all that evidence and everything. Another thing that he mentions is arbitration, which the sportsbook companies are writing into their terms and agreements, binding arbitration, which basically means that instead of going directly to court, if you have a complaint, it would go to arbitration, which is like a third party outside of court that would evaluate the case and decide on whether or not you deserve any kind of settlement. This historically has not really been on the side of the consumer when these are settled in arbitration. So again, that's something to be aware of with these sportsbook companies. You may be even signing off your rights to even bring your problem to court in the terms and agreements. What you can do besides taking it to court if you do have a complaint, he says just reach out to your local gaming authority, kind of go out to them. They may have a class action lawsuit where your case might be similar to that. Bring it to them and let them know about what's going on. You might be able to join up with something, or eventually they might get enough to create that legal precedent. But yeah, right now it's a new industry, and there's not a lot of legal precedent, legal infrastructure, and it's still catching up. That's kind of what his final thoughts are in the article. So at the end of the day, if we're trying to answer the question, is sports betting a scam? In most cases, I would say no. Like most cases, you're probably fine. But as we can see with these lawsuits and these cases, there are things that have happened or are happening still that are not consumer friendly at all. And it is a difficult road to get anything back from that. You may have a legitimate complaint, but if you don't have it all documented, and if you don't have, the time and money to take it to court, then, you're just kind of out of luck. But you should still be careful on these apps. if you use them frequently, if you're putting a lot of money into it, take screenshots of everything, contact them, make sure, if it's a big bet, make sure the odds are what they say they are on the website, and just protect yourself as much as you can if you're gambling a lot of money. For the most part, it's probably not a scam, but there are things that are kind of scammy, shady, changing the odds as you bet before the end of the game while it's going on, changing displays so you make different bets that you normally wouldn't make. That sounds scammy. And then again, not giving you access to your funds, and when their advertising says the opposite. So are these straight up clean companies that do everything they can for you? Definitely not. That's it for this video. Let me know your thoughts. If you've ever had any kind of issues with these companies, or if you've gambled at all and you've had a great experience, let me know. I would love to hear about that. Thank you again. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.
Hello, I like money.
What inspired you to build a second Krusty Krab right next door to the original?
Money.